Alright friends, today we're going to talk about beautiful but impractical design choices. I'm going to share some stories about how something can look stunning but end up being a hassle. In the end, what wins out, beauty or practicality? Let's dive in. Let's start with shadow skirting boards. Everyone loves shadow skirting boards. They look sleek, stylish, and absolutely stunning. But there are concerns that dirt or crumbs might accumulate in that gap, and it could be tricky to clean out with a brush. It's true that some crumbs or dust can collect in shadow skirting boards, and a robot vacuum won't reach in there. It might seem difficult, but honestly, you can easily sweep it with a broom or vacuum it up. So I think there's no need to be afraid of installing shadow skirting boards, though some consider them impractical. Staying on the topic of skirting boards, many people find it impractical when there are no skirting boards at all. How can there be no skirting boards? Well, if you use a cork compensator around the edges, or if you have a built-in skirting board. Why do people say it's impractical? Because when you mop the floor with a dirty cloth, you might hit the wall, and while a skirting board is easy to clean, the wall is harder to wipe down. Here's a little hack for shadow skirting boards. When you install them, they have a certain height. You can use that same height to align your doors with the shadow skirting boards, so everything stays at the same level and looks seamless and beautiful. And of course, for built-in furniture, you can lower the fronts of your built-in pieces and leave the same kind of gap as your shadow skirting boards. This way, the entire perimeter of the room will have a unified look with no height differences. It will look sleek and polished. Black plumbing fixtures. I have to agree on this one, black fixtures aren't very practical. Why? Because watermarks show up easily on black surfaces. Plus, if the black fixtures aren't high quality, they can quickly lose their appeal, wear down, and start looking shabby. So, if you do choose black plumbing, it should be high-end. And make sure you have water filters installed to soften the water, which will help reduce watermarks. Of course, black fixtures need constant cleaning and wiping to keep them looking good. Honestly, black plumbing is starting to fall out of trend. I think it only really works in an all-black interior where you don't want anything to stand out. In other designs, black fixtures aren't very practical or functional and often end up looking bad over time. So, I suggest steering away from black fixtures. That's just my personal opinion though, so feel free to comment and let me know what you think. Are you willing to keep using black plumbing fixtures? Glass shower partitions. I have a glass partition in my shower. Of course, glass partitions in the shower look nice, but they're not the most practical choice because water droplets leave marks and you need to constantly wipe them down. People who have glass partitions usually have special tools like the ones you use on car windshields to wipe them clean. It's not very practical, that's true, but it does look better than a shower curtain. The mirror above the sink in the bathroom. You know how when you're brushing your teeth, brushing, little splashes of toothpaste tend to fly around? Usually, they land on the lower part of the mirror. If your mirror goes all the way down to the sink and the sink is right up against it, those splashes can make a mess that you'll have to clean up. Now, in my own home, in my latest interior, I actually have the mirror going all the way down to the sink. And honestly, I live with it just fine. But yeah, it's not the most practical because you do have to wipe it down. So this is one of those situations where it looks great, but it's not exactly functional. The best option, if you want a practical interior, is to raise the mirror or cabinet at least 20 to 30 centimeters above the sink. This way, the splashes won't reach it. Everything stays cleaner and you'll have less glass to wipe down. A freestanding bathtub. It looks incredibly beautiful. But if you don't have a separate shower cabin, taking a shower in a freestanding tub can be really inconvenient because water splashes everywhere. Typically, if you don't have space for a separate shower, it means your bathroom is already quite small and there are narrow gaps around the tub that are hard to reach for cleaning. So, while a freestanding bathtub is aesthetically stunning, it's not the most functional solution. How can you make it both stylish and practical? Well, you need to have a separate shower. A great example is when the shower and freestanding tub are located in the same area. You can relax in the tub, then stand under the shower afterward. This is exactly how we designed it in one of our projects, the apartment with a Bali-inspired style. There's a separate shower area with a slight slope to allow water to drain, even if droplets fall outside the tub. The water goes into the drain under the shower, keeping everything clean and looking great. You can lounge in the tub, then stand under the tropical rain shower. Total bliss. By the way, if you want to see more of this apartment project, check out the video we made. It's one of our favorite interiors where we brought the tropical island vibes of Bali into a skyscraper. It looks amazing. Here's another interesting point. You know, black interiors might seem like they can't get dirty because of the dark color, but in reality, black surfaces show everything: hair, dust, any dirt. If you have a black countertop, backsplash, cabinets, or floors, the space can end up looking very high maintenance. It's better to go for graphite or gray tones. On gray surfaces, scratches are much less visible compared to black ones. The same goes for white. My apartment, for instance, is completely white, and you can clearly see hair on the floors as well as footprints if you walk in with dirty shoes. It looks beautiful, but it raises questions about practicality. Continuing with kitchen design, let's talk about cabinet fronts. If you use a push-to-open mechanism for your kitchen cabinets, where you press and the door opens, you'll often end up with fingerprints on the cabinet fronts. This is especially true if you have a glossy surface. So, how can you keep things looking clean? Skip the push-to-open mechanisms, especially for upper cabinets. Instead, go for a handle-free design with a recessed area where you can grip to open the door. For drawers, use integrated handles that are built into the design. These usually look like a simple white line and they're stylish. You pull out the drawer without leaving fingerprints behind. When it comes to my apartment, I've tried out a lot of different solutions to see how they hold up in everyday use, both in terms of how prone they are to showing marks and how practical they are. For example, I used metallized facades, and it turned out that the paint I chose for them was very prone to fingerprints. Every time I touched them, you could see the marks. But in another project, we found a metallized facade that left fewer fingerprints and looked just as sleek. So, sometimes a particular solution might be high maintenance at one point, but a similar one made from different materials can be much more durable. So, it's important to feel the materials, touch them, and see how they perform before installing them in your own home. Let's talk about natural materials. They feel amazing to the touch and give you that forest-like vibe with all the wood and stone. But here's the thing, natural materials can be pretty high maintenance. For example, if you spill a glass of wine on marble and don't wipe it up within, say, 30 seconds, chances are the marble will absorb it. It might not soak in immediately, but after a bit, that red wine can stain the marble and be impossible to remove. Wood is just as finicky. If you drop something on a wooden floor, it's super easy to leave dents. Wood needs proper humidity to stay in good shape. For instance, if you have a wooden floor and don't maintain the right humidity, especially in winter when heaters dry out the air, the wood can shrink and crack. Living with these materials is totally doable though. You can use special coatings on marble to reduce absorption, and with wood, just use a humidifier to keep things balanced. Basically, if you love natural materials, be prepared to be a bit of a caretaker for them. Every material has its pros and cons. Friends, if you've already got a finished apartment with floors, walls, and ceilings all set, don't worry. That's not a barrier to creating a fantastic interior. At our company, for example, we offer a service called home staging. This involves selecting furniture, adjusting layouts, and using simple solutions like adding panels behind the TV or relocating outlets. We can transform your space into something that looks like it came straight out of a magazine, all without major renovations or repainting the walls. Add some decor, and it'll look amazing. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the description for more details about this design service. When you have a small space and try to squeeze in a tiny closet in the bedroom, it often turns out so cramped that it's hard to move around in there. So if you're trying to fit the impossible, it's better to just go with a regular wardrobe. This way, your bedroom space can double as part of the closet when you open the doors, combining two functional zones into one. You can use the room both as a bedroom and for wardrobe needs, sleep, and organize in the same space. It's efficient. Now, if you've got more room, by all means, go for a full walk-in closet. It's awesome, practical, and looks great. We often design open closets in our interiors, and I personally love them. But let me tell you, an open closet really pushes you to stay organized. With everything out in the open, you can't let things get messy because it'll stress you out. Or you could allow some mess, close the bedroom door, and ignore it. But if you want a solution for an open closet, you could have part of it open, where your color-coded clothes are hanging, and part of it closed for, let's say, socks, underwear, and other personal items. Use pull-out drawers to toss all that in and keep it hidden while your shirts are on display. Let's talk about the tricky subject of smart homes. Smart home technology is incredible, but without proper integration, these systems don't work as well as they should. People often spend a lot of money on smart home systems and then barely use them. I'm actually a big fan of smart homes, and I do recommend them, but only if done right. It's crucial to have an integrator set it all up. Before you move into your apartment, this is a key point. You need to bring in this wonderful integrator, a professional, who will configure all the lighting scenarios, motion sensors, humidity sensors, and connect your air conditioners and blinds to the smart home system. That way, when you move in, everything is working perfectly. Fireplaces. I'm definitely a fan, but let's break it down. What are the downsides? The main one is that most people, when they install a fireplace, imagine themselves sitting by the fire with family, reading books, or sipping wine. They do it once and never again. Of course, it depends on the person, but usually a fireplace takes effort, and people rarely light it a second time. You can create a fireplace nook and put candles in it. That's what I did in my first apartment. I made a fireplace space and often lit candles there. Candles are so much easier. No chopping wood, carrying logs, struggling to light them, waiting for the fire to catch. Just light a candle and you get that cozy vibe with real flames, and it looks great. There are also bioethanol fireplaces, but they tend to dry out the air. So if you go that route, you'll need a humidifier. Bio fireplaces look nice with real flames, and you don't need a chimney, so they work well in apartments. But again, they rarely get used, just like regular fireplaces. Candles still get lit more often. The third option is an electric fireplace, which can even function as a humidifier. It gives the illusion of real fire, and modern ones look very convincing. Personally, I'm not a fan. I'd rather stick with candles, but they do have their place. They look nice, create that cozy atmosphere, and no chopping wood required. Now, let's talk about low beds. They look really cool, but for older people, they can be uncomfortable to sit on or get up from. You know, when you stand up and your back hurts, it's all because the bed height wasn't thought through for the person using it. So if you're older, it's better to have a standard height bed, or even a high one. Personally, I'm a fan of low beds because they look stylish, and I love lounging on a low bed. But many of my friends complain, saying low beds are uncomfortable and impractical. They keep telling me, don't do it, it's not functional. So it's up to you to decide. I'm team low bed. Let me know in the comments what you think. Now let's talk about a big mirror, the dream of every homeowner, from floor to ceiling, so you can see everything, even your back. So a large, beautiful mirror from the floor to the ceiling. It seems functional, looks great, creates that visual access upward, visually increases the ceiling height, and mirrors in general make the space feel bigger and brighter. Everything seems perfect. But if you have kids, they love to touch the mirror like this, and it leaves marks, so you'll have to clean it often. Pets can also dirty the mirror. As for pets, maybe you could train them or set up a barrier. So friends, if you're planning your space, think about who will live in it and how you'll use it. This might make you reconsider such a decision. For example, you could install a large mirror, but not all the way to the floor. That works too. Air conditioner. I really can't stand the look of indoor air conditioner units, especially when they stick out like a sore thumb. For example, a white unit on a gray or black wall, it just looks bad. So I always try to hide them in some kind of furniture. My logic is that in northern regions, we only use air conditioners a few months a year. So it's fine to hide the unit in a cabinet or cupboard. When the hot weather comes, you just open it and it works. Another option is to install a grill and let the air blow through it. However, hiding the air conditioner like this has a downside. It doesn't work as efficiently. On the other hand, if you only need it for a few months, it doesn't have to work perfectly. What's the big deal? It runs a bit, you set the temperature higher, and it cools the space. But you won't be able to regulate the temperature as accurately. For example, it might not reach 23 degrees Celsius because the air conditioner sensor is on the unit itself. If it's enclosed in a grill or cupboard, it will think it's reached 23 degrees Celsius faster and shut off. So you should set it lower, like to 17 degrees Celsius, so it cools the room for longer. In general, the less space you have around the unit, the worse it performs. The more space and the larger the grill, the better it works. And of course, ducted air conditioning systems are always an option. They're more expensive, but they look a lot cleaner. All right, here's another idea that's pretty controversial. Setting up a home office on the balcony. On one hand, it sounds great. You've got your little office space, shut yourself away from the family, kids running around, but you've locked them out and you're just working in peace. Your office, your home, your fortress. It looks cool, but there are a few downsides. First off, balconies are usually cold spots. If you don't insulate it properly, when you turn it into an office, it'll be freezing in there. Plus, balconies have a lot of windows, which means you need good quality double glazing to keep it warm. And then there's the heating. If you live in an apartment, you're not allowed to extend the heating system onto the balcony. It's against the law and not allowed because it adds extra strain to the building's heating system. How do you solve this? Well, you can always put in an electric heater. Just switch it on when you need to warm up the space. An electric heater won't overload the building's heating, but of course, it'll use extra electricity. The second issue with using the balcony as an office is the sun. You need to think about when the sun will hit that space, but you might be thinking, why? Hey, we don't get much sun in the north, I could use more sunshine. But trust me, after sitting there once, you'll realize the sun can be a bit much. So you might want to consider blinds, roller shades, or even thick curtains to block it out when needed. Another great option for the balcony is turning it into a cozy relaxation zone where you can lay back with a book, maybe even set up a small library. But whatever you do, don't turn your balcony into a storage area for random junk. That stuff belongs in a storage room, not your nice balcony. So friends, let me know in the comments what other beautiful yet inconvenient ideas you've come across. Let's keep adding to the list. Alright, see you in the next video.